welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for a new episode of Anewgo of New Home Sales. I'm your host, Anya Chrisanthon, and joining me today is Patrick Murphy with Maket AI. So Patrick, welcome to the show. I'm really excited for our conversation today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So why don't we jump right in and tell us what led you to create Maket AI and how has your vision evolved since its inception?
Yeah, so we've always had the base principle of making architectural design accessible and democratized. So same way that Canva came in and changed graphic design in 2013, we really want to bring that same approach to architecture in now 2025, making it easy for anybody to create plans, be able to edit those plans, do 3D renderings, etc., everything around the architectural process without necessarily having to hire an architect. So that was always the vision of what we were building. Obviously, we started in 2020, so much before the generative AI hype around ChatGPT and around diffusion models and all that we're seeing and how the world is transforming before us. So we've had that vision since the start. Is really how do we make architecture easier to access for everybody.
So obviously you have AI in your name, and it's been such a buzzword, especially in the last 2 years, and I think it keeps going, right? You can't go
Yeah.
anywhere without hearing that word. So
Yeah.
how does Market AI really move beyond that hype to actually deliver real value to consumers?
Yeah, it was interesting. Back in 2021, when we started working in the space, it was actually stemmed from a data partnership with the Mattamy Homes and a local provider here called Dessin Drummond, as we say in French, where they really wanted to be able to produce architectural plans in a quicker fashion using automation. And then it obviously translated more into generative AI. So we really started with a problem statement of the customer, saying we have 40 years of architectural plans. Is there any way that we can create better architectural plans in an easier fashion? So major hats off to Mattamy for being visionary within that space. So ultimately, we went down that path in 2022, started to create our own model around floor plan generation and put that into product in 2023. And now we've grown to being over 800,000 users over the last year that all have the same problem. Whether it be builders, real estate developers, or homeowners, they just want to be able to create plans, edit them, and really have access to our architectural process like never before. And generative AI has been a catalyst behind it. So really thinking about how to deliver a true value to the end customer beyond just hype.
Wow, so 800,000, that's insane in such a
Yeah.
short amount of time. Congratulations,
Thank
that's
you.
very
Appreciate it.
impressive. So have you identified who is your customer avatar now? Because it sounds like you have
Yeah.
multiple. Like, what's
Yeah.
your ideal customer look like?
Yeah. Ultimately, the large vision of what we want to do is we're creating what's called the architectural brain, right? So it's really anything that an architect would be able to do from plan creation to rendering creation, zoning code analysis, being able to do even furniture shopping on platform, really an end-to-end architectural brain that understands the consumer constraints and is able to serve them as an architect would. That's what we're trying to build. Right now, the way the platform functions is you can generate floor plans, you can also generate renderings instantaneously on the platform, being able to edit those plans. So primarily the platform is now addressed to home builders and real estate developers who can use it to be able to explore concepts internally and with their customers. Then obviously we have an amazing groundswell of homeowners that want to use it for their own either new construction or renovation projects. So not necessarily directed towards the architect. It's a little bit everybody that gravitates around working with an architect.
Yeah, sure. It seems a lot of AI platforms are right now are going after those higher paying jobs, like the lawyers,
Yeah.
architects,
Yeah.
doctors, so look out. So that makes sense. So let's take Mattamy Homes as an example. Can
Yeah.
you talk
Yeah.
us through like how has it transformed their workflow?
Yeah, for sure. So we really work with Mattamy as a first data partner, right? So that's really the relationship that we've had with them. The way that it typically works for builders like themselves, and we actually have a customer in Japan called Libwork, who is on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. We're going to be using it like this with their customers as well. What they're looking to do is being able to come up with concepts in a quick fashion. So being able to put in their constraints, generate floor plans that fit what the customer needs, being able to then edit those plans, and then also be able to do a walkthrough of what the plan looks like, and then be able to do high quality photorealistic 3D renderings instantaneously. So as it's a process right now that takes really multiple weeks or months even to get to that point, sometimes thousands of dollars to get to a decision point with the customer. We're looking to compress that first part. And after that, being able to tie in zoning codes and optimization of plans. We basically are building out agents for each one of those steps within the process. So ultimately, right now, what we have on platforms, the floor plan generation agent and the rendering agent, but we're going to continue adding to those agents that make up the architectural brain that we're creating.
Very cool. If you're tying zoning into it, in my vision, the idea of a house that hasn't really changed in
Yeah.
like hundreds of thousands of
Oh,
years.
yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
it's like rectangular shape. It's got these rectangular rooms for the most part, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what your lifestyle, doesn't matter what your design vision is. It starts with this rectangle and then you go from
Yeah.
there. I was thinking like if you have AI that can design for you and really bring that vision to life, then what's stopping you from designing some really unique looking homes, right? Maybe it's a circle. I don't know. Maybe it's a
Absolutely. Yeah.
sphere. Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
what fits your
Absolutely.
personality? And if you're
Yeah.
tying zoning into it, that'd be interesting process to see how local municipalities especially respond to that and adjust to that, because I do think that our world's going to look a lot more interesting with AI
Absolutely.
in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the things that you've seen in cities like here in the greater area of Montreal, where we're based, in Calgary, and some Canadian cities, and same thing with the American cities. You see the same house over and over again, thousands of houses that look exactly the same. I'm a design, like my background is in design. So it's emerging to the physical world with the design patterns that you want to see. What we hope to do is be able to democratize that design process, architectural process. So we do end up with just a nicer landscape of houses where they're just as functional, they're actually less cost to build, and they're just as compliant with the zoning codes, but they just look better, they feel better, and there's a wider variety. I think that's been a little bit locked up right now with the current processes that we have within the architectural design phases, right? So that's very much part of our core mission is make the make cities and communities look better using AI.
Oh, I think there's so many opportunities, especially with trying to solve the problem of low cost housing and higher
Absolutely.
density homes. So
Absolutely.
right now it's limited to, okay, this is an established neighborhood. We don't want to put that in there. We want to
Mm-hmm.
put all the housing that's different or more dense to this
Mm-hmm.
specific zone. So then it creates kind of a very choppy looking neighborhoods instead
Exactly.
of incorporating those into the existing neighborhoods. Okay, if you're knocking down this house, why not allow a 4 unit building to go
Exactly.
up in there? And
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
as long as it fits into the architectural feel overall of the community, that's going to make for such a better integration, more affordability. I just think that's the way to do it instead of
Yeah.
separating everything out.
Yeah,
So
and a lot of people don't necessarily even know that they can take their lot, for example, and subdivide it and then finance a renovation or an ADU unit that could be on their lot. So there's a lot of things that even as homeowners, they don't necessarily even know what they can do with the space that they have. And I think bringing in automation and AI to say, hey, did you know that you can do this with your piece of land or your lot and be able to really increase density in that way? And then also being able to transform, for example, single family into duplex, triplexes, or even bigger. I think that we will be moving towards that. I think the bottleneck right now has really been, yeah, the zoning codes, the architectural process. But if you collapse those and you also can show people what it's going to look like and what type of value it could bring back to them from a monetary perspective, it's really going to unlock a lot of doors around just increase of density of housing globally. And I'm really excited about that.
yeah, I agree with you 100%. So, Patrick, in your opinion, what aspects of home design and planning do you think that AI can do better than humans versus where does human expertise still reign supreme?
Yeah, for sure. Architecture is an interesting space because unlike video or image or even text, you can't get something 99% right and have 1% wrong. It's really a matter of deep importance when you're building a house or renovating a house. So I think it really can help at the conceptual phase right now when you're talking about early exploration of schematic plans, generation of those plans, being able to edit those plans. Also within the visualization aspect to say, okay, this is what it could look like. This is how much it could cost potentially, material takeoffs, being able to say how it furnished the plan of the house itself. We really get into more complicated elements like structural, HVAC, those plumbing, those constraints that really hit the physical world. Obviously, we're working on agents that are going in that direction. We'll be able to provide a certain level of accuracy, but you're always going to need a human in the loop that says, okay, from a design perspective, this makes sense. You can do it on your own, but we need to make sure that there's a constructability here. I do have to say, though, with reasoning models and where they're going, I think that we will live in a world quite soon where it is 99.99999% accurate, and then you just have a final human check. And eventually, I think it could be fully automated. But at this point, it's really very much in early stages when it comes to design and the architectural possibilities. And that's where there's a lot of bottleneck for the customer, for the home builder and real estate developer. And it's just a frustrating process across the board right now.
Yeah, it's crazy to even say that it's early stage because when you see what it's capable of,
Yeah.
it's mind blowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
especially
mean,
being in the field for so long, right? Where you just take it for granted that, oh yeah, we can put in constraints, you can generate a plan, then you can edit it, you can see renderings, but then you talk to people who have this problem on a daily basis of saying, I have a static PDF plan. How do I edit it? And then how do I get renderings from it? And then just be able to just unblock my client to go within the next phase. Yeah, you're right. It can you can lose track of that pretty quickly.
yeah, it's really exciting where it's going. Even just as a Chat GPT user, I'm sure you
Yeah.
guys listening to this
Oh
podcast
yeah.
relate how each model, even between the models, like the enhancements that they add, and it's just, oh my God, how
Uh,
did we live without this thing?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's become so ingrained within my workflows when it comes to customer presentations. I'll give you an example. We had a customer presentation that we had. I took the transcript from that call and then just fed it into ChatGPT, got in the high level points, and was able to create a presentation right after. That would have taken me a few days, if not a week in the past. Now I was able to do it within a few hours, right? It's really compressing the workflow and really changing the way that people work. But I always say that we're working on such a huge problem, which is affordability of housing, needing to build more houses, that the more tech advancement, the better for us. It's able to really go quicker to what we want to accomplish.
Oh, absolutely. So speaking of tech advancements, what other solutions do you see beyond architectural design that AI could help solve in home building industry?
Yeah, I think that the agents that we're developing are a good peek into that. I think when it comes to material takeoff, calculations of what would need to be obviously used to be able to build an optimized cost, that's one. I think zoning is another one, as I was mentioning. We're able to cross-reference that with costing, also with what's being generated in terms of the plan. And then if you take a look as well as inspiration, so being able to bring in all of your different inspirations that you have and be able to come up with just what style do I want to be working with? What does that look like? We call it the inspiration agent. And then maybe one final one, but it's supply chain, right? And being able to understand what type of furniture would I want in my plan, in my house, really, how can I tie back more stylistic elements to, hey, I can actually purchase this couch, or I can actually purchase this light, and I can make my house look like what I see in this photo right here. So I think there's a lot of applications across the board already, from early stage architectural planning to material takeoffs and even supply chain within new build.
Absolutely. There's so many different solutions. And the thing is, with humans, we're so visual. Yet, if
Yeah.
you ask somebody, what style home do you like? Most people find it difficult to explain what is it that
Yeah.
they actually like. Or when it comes to, yeah, interior design, furniture,
Yeah.
what do I like? I don't know how to describe my style, but
Yeah.
AI can help you get there so much faster. Like it just shows you images and you can
Yeah.
respond yes, no, and then dive in.
Exactly. And that's one of the difficult points right now with, if you take a look at something like Pinterest or House, where you know that you like, or even Instagram for millennials, maybe younger, who say, I really like this architectural project, or I really like this design style. But then taking that and saying, okay, what are the costs associated to that? And then how does it actually apply to my actual space? Before generative AI, there was no way to do that, right? Or you could through renderings, but it's long and complicated process, not very iterative. And now that's really collapsed, where you can go from, I have an inspiration, to what will it look like in my space in a pretty instantaneous fashion. So hopefully it's going to be driving some better design decisions that we've seen in the past.
Absolutely. I think so. Yeah, yeah. We've seen some designs that humans
Yes.
come up with, right? Sometimes it's not the best.
Questionable.
Yes.
Exactly.
So how do home builders typically react when they first see what Maket AI can do? Do you
Yeah.
encounter skepticism at all? Like, how do you address it?
Yeah, one of the interesting points is it depends on the agent that they're using, right? And how they're using it within their workflows. I know that, for example, floor plan generation, we're still working on making floor plan generation better. Sometimes it'll create some error within a plan, or we're trying to really bring it to as close to 100% accuracy as we can. And sometimes I think if you can take a look at a plan that's generated and there's a little mistake within where the door is placed or windows placed, you can throw your hands in the air and say, oh, it doesn't work, when you actually there was 99% of the plan that did work, and that little element that didn't necessarily work. So that's something that we're still trying to work through and make better in terms of the plan generation. Really, where we're getting a massive amount of just actual visceral wow reactions that we've seen on customer calls is that process that we're able to collapse, right? We're going from a static floor plan to a plan that's fully digitized where you can edit those elements. And then especially the 3D rendering part of saying you're going from a low poly, what you'd see maybe in SketchUp, to something that you render out in 3ds Max or something like that within 30 to 45 seconds with specific materials and specific styles. That's really like a pretty major unlock for them right now. And then same thing is going to be obviously going forward with zoning codes eventually. To you write in a text prompt, you get all the elements that you need to be able to submit it to the city and be able to go move forward in your building. That's what we want to build towards, is those wow moments with builders.
Yeah. Yeah, I think right now builders just have to understand that like this technology is so new, right? Like you
Yeah,
said, think back 2 years ago, right? We didn't have anything that was close to it, so you can't expect it to be perfect. But again, it
absolutely.
can cut out so much of your time. Uh,
And there's hallucinations across the board with AI models, right? If you even
right.
taking a look at images, got really good, video as well, but text can also, there continue to be hallucinations, and there's some alignment issues with AI models as well. And you see it with encoding, Bolt, Lovable, Replit, those types of those platforms. They're gonna make some security issues when they're coming up with their AI generated code. You'll see that within the legal space as well. So it is a little bit cliche, but it is a little bit more of a tool right now than an outright automation. But the point that I have always said is what we see now will be exponentially different than what we see in a month, 2 months, 6 months, 12 months from now. Because I've been in this long enough to see the difference of when we started working in it versus now, in the really exponential takeoff that's happening within different verticals with like within text, images, and video. So that's really, I always give the advice of stay curious and really set your expectations of coming back and seeing an exponential leap in what's possible.
Yeah, I think right now a lot of builders almost have a gut reaction when they hear AI. They're almost like
Yeah.
shutting down. I don't know if you've experienced anything like that, but it just okay. Like
Yeah.
when the internet came around, I guess people had similar reaction, but it just seems a little more severe now in some cases.
Yeah, it's more based on speaking their language and really coming to the point of being able to get the output that they're looking for that they've been traditionally used to. If they're looking for plans that in a certain format that they want to be able to move around and that they want to be able to synthesize zoning codes and have renderings, ultimately, if you're able to do it for them for a fraction of the cost and a lot faster, then I think that's where there's going to be more receptiveness versus saying, here's an AI solution and you should adopt it. So why would I adopt it? I think it's leading with what the output's going to be, right? So I think staying anchored in that's important.
Yes, I think sometimes it's like leading with honey versus the fear of it,
Exactly.
right? Like I'm leaving
Exactly.
behind, but hey, what can you do with that's going to be
Exactly.
so much better? So it's
Exactly.
interesting. You said tool versus automation. So
Yeah.
do you think that this tool will become fully autonomous at some point?
Yes, it's quite clear with reasoning models and reinforcement learning what's going on with in just the foundational model layer when it comes to OpenAI, when it comes to Anthropic, Google. I don't think that we're anywhere close to hitting a wall. I really think it's going to keep on having exponential takeoff. I think one of the things that you see, without getting too technical, but one of these things that you see with these reasoning models is sometimes they'll lack context, they'll lack data, and they'll lack tool access. But once those are fixed, the reasoning models are good enough to be able to understand that context, that data, and the tool use to be able to really automate workflows across the board with virtually no errors. So I think that we're first going to see automation within the software space, and then combining that within the hardware space, where eventually you're going to have physics-based models where you could have a robot doing drywall and sanding and building different components of houses. I really truly believe that we're at the first stages of an exponential takeoff when it comes to AI models and what they're able to do. That brings in more societal questions and conversations around what do we do if all work is automated? But we're not there yet. Or new type of jobs could be created. But the reality is that's why we're so excited of the field that we're working in is listen, there's no place in the world where we're saying that we need to build less houses, right? We need to find a way to build houses and very fast. And I think the way to that is automation on the software side when it comes to planning, and then automation on the robotic side when it comes to building, right? So we're a very long ways from being able to fully capitalize on that promise, but that's the vision of the company, right? So for us, it's steps to get to a goal, right?
Yes, absolutely. So, Patrick, thinking about builder businesses,
Yeah,
they do like data and
yeah,
context, right? So,
yeah.
if you were a builder right now, what would you do to get ready for this next shift?
Yeah, I would make sure to have, I always say make sure to have the processes that are well lined up within the business, right? Is what's an area of the business right now that could be augmented and automated using existing tooling. So within the marketing side of things, advertising, copywriting, bid submission, proposals, everything that's text-based and even image based, I think there's a proper space for automation, even within the architectural design process. So I'd say that having those processes mapped out and understand where some exponential efficiencies could be added using AI tooling, I think would be an interesting place to start. And I always say just like have your data in order, have your floor plans in order, have your historical models in order of what's been selling well, have really like basically the knowledge database prepared to be able to feed it into a high context reasoning model when the time comes. And you want to be able to do that and really automate almost all elements of your business. So data cleanliness, data capture, and then also, yeah, taking a look at where you can automate some of those processes.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more about the interior design, the furniture.
Yeah.
So is there particular vendors that you guys partner with right now, or how does that work? Or is it just open
Yeah.
to the entire market?
Yeah, it includes some furniture providers on platform, but our goal is to be able to really bring it into the real world, right? Of saying, I like EQ3 or West Elm, being able to take an EQ3 couch and an image of that and say, this is the actual couch that I want within my space. How do I then bring it into a 3D space and see what it looks like and then be able to render out what it'll look like there? Or vice versa, if you're able to, for example, generate an image of what your space could look like and then have it auto detected that this couch, yes, there's the $10,000, there's the $10,000 option, but there's also the $1,000, $2,000 option that's a little bit more affordable within that space. And being able to link that with real product SKUs is something that we're going to be doing on platform within the medium to long term, just so people can say, I like what I see visually, but now how do I source them? I'm going through the same process right now with my kitchen and dining room renovation, and I wish a tool like that would have existed. Of saying, this is what I like conceptually, but now how do I source materials that look like this or furniture that looks like this within that's not located in Australia, for example, because that's never going to work with it with shipping. So that's how we're seeing the furniture agent on platform eventually.
Yeah, so builders don't necessarily have to have their own provider that they typically work with,
Nope.
but or you could incorporate their provider for you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We'd be able to take basically all of the catalog of a furniture provider and be able to instantaneously be able to transform all of those within 3D objects that you're able to then move around and do different configurations of. In large reason because of the advancements within the generative AI space when it comes to image to 3D, right? There's a lot of interesting models and advancements that are happening on that side that now allow this, which was just not possible a few years ago.
Yeah, I think shoppable models is definitely the direction that we're
Yeah.
moving into. And it's
Yep.
just such a great way for builders to monetize. Because
Absolutely.
if you think about it, like when you're buying a new home, you're not just buying the four walls, right? Everything that goes into it,
Yeah.
from then furniture, the curtains, the
Absolutely.
insurance potentially, right? Like the
Yeah.
homeowners, that like all
Yeah.
the services that come with owning a home. So that could potentially be some kind of a revenue for
Exactly.
home builder long term.
Exactly. And being able to really then be able to say, what is this asset worth currently as we're building it? And then what it's going to be worth in the future, and be able to basically pass off that digital file to the homeowner and say, I put this furniture, this is how much I put into it. I really have a digital log of everything that's been done. Now, eventually, if I want to go into more of a renovation phase, think 5, 10, 15 years down the line, how much value can it be added to that house because I know what that historical price and appreciation, et cetera, is. It's really bringing home builders and just the home as an asset into the digital age. And real estate agents would be able to use it as well to do furniture staging, be able to show the potential of a house. So there's just so much that can be done within using the asset of the house and then being able to apply different AI agents to either the planning process, the construction process, or architectural process.
Oh yeah, and then post sale again with the idea of digital twin
Yep.
of a home. Think about all the maintenance and right, like
Yeah,
your water
absolutely.
heater, it needs to be replaced in 10 years. Like, why not you be the provider? Or maybe you're not the one replacing it, but
Exactly.
you're outsourcing that, or roof, like all the other things that go into it is just such a
Yeah,
great opportunity for home builders to monetize there.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it's one of in the past, we would have had to build 150 different tools and companies to be able to encompass all of this. The reality is that now we don't have to, and we're actually moving in from an interesting point for builders as well. We're moving in from more of a SaaS 2.0 buttons and knobs era where a builder would have to learn a platform, get familiar with it. There's a lot of UI, etc., to eventually, quite soon, going into more of an agentic era. I like to say SaaS 3.0, where it's really more of a ChatGPT style interface. We're having a conversation, it's pulling in information and tooling as you need it, and then we'll show the result to the builder and their customer. And I think that's where you're going to see mass adoption within the building space because they're not UI UX specialists. They're good at building houses, and we're asking them to be software specialists, and they're not, which is completely fine. But they're missing out on what software would be fully able to do for them.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And the consumers are going that way.
Yeah,
We're merging the social, the commerce all together. ChatGPT just released their new
yeah,
version where it adds that shopping into it. Because I
yeah,
was like, I always go to ChatGPT first.
yep.
I used to use Claude almost exclusively now.
Me
It
too.
was buttering me up a lot lately. I was like, you know what? Okay, I like what you have to say about me and how I do things.
Yeah.
Let's switch to you.
Yeah.
But I very rarely used to go to Google, and it was primarily for shopping. So now that they're incorporating shopping into their platform, it's like, why go somewhere else?
Of course. Again, I'm trying to buy a coffee grinder right now, and I went through the same process where I put in all of the models that I might want to buy. I did a deep search, so it really came up with, I think, 12 pages, really detailed specs. I put it into Notebook LM and I listened to podcasts on which coffee grinder I should buy, right? Where I really think that the shopping experience is going to be going towards that versus clicking and scrolling or going on Reddit until 2 a.m. It's really going to be like, how do I synthesize the amount of information that I need and say, which is better, this or this? And let's come up with an answer in a quick fashion. And I can see that being applicable to within the building space as well. That's cool.
Yeah, I agree. And with Notebook LM, if you guys haven't played with that, you have got to. Even for my 13-year-old boys, when they
Yeah.
come to me with their homework questions, I'm like, I don't know. Put it in Notebook LM, it'll tell you. And just to be able to take such a massive amount of information, like I even tried it with medical research paper.
Yeah.
It's like 100 pages and it just spits out information in such a presentable format. It creates a
Absolutely.
podcast with two hosts that
Yeah.
sound just like humans. It's
Yeah.
crazy. So I
It is.
definitely try it out.
Yeah, and it really is. And it's going to be able to, from an audio format, be able to then compare different types of models of houses that you should buy or different materials that you should be using. We're really moving into where it's very much like everybody has access to just as much information and synthesize that information to real concrete answers in a quick fashion. It's exciting for sure.
Yeah. So do you think AGI has been achieved or not yet? Or when do you think we're going
Not
to hit that?
not yet. Like I said, the AGI is not far away. I think the elements, I think the ingredients, the cake isn't there yet, but the ingredients, the flour, the sugar, all of those things are there, right? So if you take a look at the high capacity reasoning models, O3 or O4 that's going to come out, DeepSeek, etc., they have the reasoning capabilities, but as I mentioned, I think they're missing context or they're lacking the data and then tool access. But if they have all three of those, when you think about it, it's a little bit like what humans do, right? You have the brain that's reasoning, and then you have the context of whatever you're working on, your hands or the agents, it's the tools, right? So I really think I think that models can get to a point where it's going to achieve AGI. I always have a little bit of a benchmark for when a new model comes out to see if it's AGI, if it can get everything that I would need. So construction documents, renderings, bill of materials. It's able to schedule a call with or have a visit that's programmed with somebody that's able to come in and either do the renovation or the new build. That's going to be when we hit AGI, but those elements are still lacking. But it's not 10 years away. I really do think that it's within probably less than 24 months.
Yeah, I think so too. And I sometimes I wonder if it's already been achieved and they're just reining it back for the typical user.
Possible. Yeah,
So
that's possible.
who knows?
Yeah, and
Uh,
that's a good point. Yeah, OpenAI had a job posting for, I think it was a post AGI research scientist. So they're
okay.
posting that. It's either they're really planning ahead or they've done it already internally. So yeah, it's gonna be a different world for sure.
Yeah. So Patrick, what's on a roadmap for say next 12 months for your product? Is there any
Yep.
specific features that you're currently working on that you can share with
Yeah,
us?
yeah, for sure. It's really those agents that I mentioned, right? And really making our way towards building up that architectural brain. So starting with floor plan generation, making that better. We have a floor plan recognizer as well that we're working on. So being able to make floor plan recognition better on platform. We have zoning agents that we're also trying to develop as well. They really cross-reference all that information. Rendering agents. We have an inspiration agent as well. So all the elements that make up the architectural brain that we're working on. And then obviously just more some platform things, right? Making the platform more performant and better for the user. But that's what we're working on, is really being able to provide value at each one of those agents that gets delivered within the platform. So that's what the roadmap looks for us.
That's very exciting. We're also working in our version of agent here at Anewgo. So
Fantastic.
it'll be interesting to see how the world transforms over the next 12 to 24 hours. I think it's going to be a completely different landscape with
Yeah.
where, especially, I think home building is such a complex
Yeah.
process
Absolutely.
that a lot of other industries may be jumping on board before us. So I think as consumers start to see that on the website as like a
Yeah.
standard, right? You go and you chat with an agent and it takes
Yeah.
care, finds everything for you, then
Yeah.
it's going to be an expectation for
Yeah.
home building.
Which has actually been quite surprising to me, where the standard interface in UI and UX for that matter for Gen AI companies across the board really has become like a ChatGPT where it's text-based. I think eventually it's gonna translate into a voice-based interface, but that's become standard, right? So within feedback that we see from our customers is we're looking forward to having a little bit more of this agentic SaaS 3.0 that we're going to be coming out with also that we're working on as well. But it's really become standard within the industry, which is interesting to see that rapid change across the consumers and what they expect from businesses as well.
Yeah, and one of the things is, I agree with you in the voice, but it's also visual, I think, right? Like
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
tying, if I say, hey, I like this kind of style, and then it
Yeah,
brings up that for you,
exactly.
and you can
Yep.
interact between the website and agentic AI chat. I
Absolutely.
think that's where the
Yeah.
magic is. So it'll be
Yeah, absolutely.
interesting.
Yeah, there's always going to be that visual component as well. It's so you can it's like the AI coding tools, right? It's what do you want on the left and then what visually does it look like on the right? I really think that it's going to keep on going that direction.
Yeah. So Patrick, if people want to learn more about Maket AI, where should they go? Where do you hang out on social media if somebody wants to connect with you personally as well?
Primarily on LinkedIn. I'm more of a lurker on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. On Twitter, I'm more of a lurker, but definitely on LinkedIn. Happy to connect there and go back and forth.
Perfect. So I will link your profile to show notes. And of course, you guys check out Maket AI if you want to learn about all the fun things that Patrick is doing with his company. Patrick, thank you so much for being a guest on today's show. Really enjoyed our conversation. It's
Likewise.
been very enlightening to hear your
Thanks,
perspective.
Anya. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll talk to you very soon.
Talk soon.
Bye.